Hello, everybody, and welcome to this recording. My name is Mia. I have to re-record some commentary to allow this E4 video to be published, so that's what we're going to do. Basically, I screwed up my sound stuff, and yeah, definitely not great, but it'd be like that sometimes. So basically, it started out, we are facing Lorelei. There's a spin on the board right now. We'll just kind of see what happens here. So I started out by saying, so anyway, I started blasting, which honestly is a really, really good meme quote. We'll start against the Spinda with Secret Power. Secret Power clocks it in one hit very, very easy. Nice and simple, but it gets a lot less simple when a Slowbro with Drought and Defense comes out. Level 78 Slowbro versus my level 90 Blissey at this point. The Seismic Toss hits this Slowbro for about a little over a quarter health. And I am realizing at this point that I'm going to have to try to drill the Secret Power and see what happens. Secret Power ends up getting the Slowbro to under a quarter health, and at this point, I know that the Slowbro is going to heal. The Slowbro predictably heals with a full restore, and I drop a Secret Power onto the Slowbro, which does just under half health, meaning that it's going to take 2 hits or more to kill this. So I choose to go Seismic Toss, knowing that information, and the Slowbro goes Roleplay. I start to understand the situation. So it's already, the Lorelei's already burned a full restore, and another Seismic Toss takes it down. So that brings us to the Magneton. This is a level 77 Magneton. I cross chop it, and it does not kill this all the way. It gets close, but no cigar. Blissey, Hope, dodges a massive Poison Powder, and then Hope comes in and cleans it up with the Seismic Toss. This brings out Sudowoodo next, a level 81 Sudowoodo, and Cross Chop should in theory clean it out, and it does. 1-hit KO, pretty solid. Next up is the Amistar, and I'm starting to realize this has been a really interesting Lorelei. I have Cross Chop at the ready, but I have to think about it a little due to the hit points here. And the Amistar hits Substitute. I failed to hit with my critical hit Cross Chop due to the Substitute. Substitute fades, but that's not going to bring back the crit that I lost there. So at this point, I'm looking around at what's going on. I try for another Cross Chop, but it misses due to Lock On. Or, well, it misses in general, but Lock On is what it went for. It goes for a second Lock On, and I realize at this point, I'm not really scared of this Amistar, so I start to just hit Seismic Tosses. It hits a pound for 13 damage, which isn't quite enough to really scare me. I get it down to about a quarter health, and I try to Seismic Toss it again. I know I'm close, but no cigar, as I leave it with about 10-ish health. And at this point, the second full restore is procced. I realize that this thing has no move, so I speed up the game. I start hitting Seismic Tosses after Seismic Toss, trying to clear this out. It pounds me for another 14 damage, and then another 12, meaning that it finishes up taking out 39 of my health. Raticate is the last Pokemon on Lorelei here, and the Raticate is interesting because it has higher hit points. I'm trying to conserve Cross Chop, so I go for Secret Power, and it does Para. But then I eat some damage from Fire Blast, approximately 46, and the Raticate Citruses. This puts me in a weird situation where it has about 53-54% health, so at this point I very much consider my options. We could Seismic Toss it twice, but it gets weird. So I have to think about it for a second, and then I go for the Secret Power to try to kill. It survives on like 1 to 2 hit points and hits me with the Hypnosis. Luckily, I equipped a Lumberry that I was able to conserve from Giovanni. And then a Seismic Toss cleans out the Raticate. Lorelei is down. That means there are just 4 trainers remaining. That is just 24 Pokemon remain in my quest to become the Kanto champion. And at this point, I put the Rossberry on the Blissey, knowing that Burn would kill my chances of winning the E4. So the thought process was if I put the Rost on, knowing that I have 254 base attack, if they burn me, I'll be able to recover from that very easily. My moveset at this point, of course, is Secret Power, Drill Peck, Cross Chop, and Seismic Toss. It's not the greatest moveset, but it's enough. Clear Body stops me from losing stats, which is super nice, but that's not going to protect me from the burn, which is why we put the Berry on. Next up is Bruno. Bruno was my former PB. using a Blaziken, which unfortunately wasn't quite able to survive a Soul Rock. We drill peck the Shiftry, and that sends it to just under a quarter hit points, and we somehow dodge a Leech Seed. Somehow, some way. This leads me to kind of look at what's going on, and I get full restored, but I choose to go Drill Peck one more time here. I maybe should have gone Seismic Toss, but Drill Peck sends it to the red, and Seismic Toss does clear out the Shiftry. The Shiftry still goes down. That's the important thing. But I was a little scared of that Leech Seed. That Leech Seed would have been gross. The Dugtrio's next, and we've already dodged 2 potential run-ending things. Like, Kaizo has a lot of luck here. A crit from the Secret Power to the Dugtrio, and Hope has advanced past the Dugtrio, which is pretty solid. Glalie out next, and it's level 84, and my cat walks up in front of the camera, of course, because that's what she does. And here I have to actually think about it for a second, because I don't really want to burn any more cross chops. And it sketches me. The Glalie sketches Secret Power, which is really annoying. We do get the pair off Secret Power, but the Citrus puts Glalie back up to about just under, or just over a quarter health, I think, actually, specifically. Here at this point, I'm thinking about it a lot, trying to make a decision. I think the move might have been here to Seismic Toss, and that is what ended up being done. The Glalie goes down, which is nice, and that brings us to a Milotic. Milotic, we never had any major problems with in the game. It does go for Bulk Up, though. Bulk Up is a little scary, so it's probably 2-hit at this point. And yes, that's exactly what happened. Takedown hits me for around 63, and I'm able to Secret Power my way out of the Milotic. At this point, it gets scary, though, because 63 damage is a lot of damage, realistically. So, at this point, I considered healing for a second, but I chose not to, instead hitting the Secret Power to clear out a level 81 Sneasel. And then the level 77 Murkrow tries to intimidate me, but Clear Body is very clutch about protecting stats. We love to see that. So, Secret Power cleans up the Murkrow with another crit, second crit of the fight, and Bruno is down. Incredible job by this Blissey dodging stuff, and I know at this point, this is big. This is real. Agatha's up next, and at this point, there's no reason not to go straight in. We don't really need to do anything. We can't heal in between fights anyways, so Agatha leads out with a level 81 Wailord. And it's at this point I realize, oh shit, this has defense. We're gonna have to 2-hit this probably. So I'm just looking at my options here and trying to figure out what to do. I was requested to show PP heal situation, so I showed it off. I had at this point 2 Max Ethers, and that's where I was. But we have to really consider Max Ethering a cross chop at some point. At this point, though, I think it was a Secret Power here. And Secret Power does not a whole lot. Understanding how defensive the Wailord is, and understanding I got parried by Thunder Wave, this was the situation. This was absolutely the last thing I wanted to see at this point. But, as of course is Kaizo tradition, things happen, and you have to play through them. You have to fight through them. We don't know what the Wailord has, except we know that its speed is negative and the defense is higher. Level 81 Wailord, of course, is not anything to mess with. So, it's at this point I have to debate for a second. So, a lot of people were giving me advice to kill it first, and then go from there. Wailord tries to use Splash. I don't know why it went for Splash second. Splash in Fire Red Leaf Green is considered in the setup category, so it makes sense that it would try to do it. But why would it do it second becomes the question. At this point, though, I realize I have a shitload of lava cookies. So, understanding that, I look at my stuff and I try to make a decision. Big think. Because we have 4 lava cookies, a couple heal powders, basically a lot of base heal items, which are super helpful here. But the Wailord is really weird here. We don't really know what to do with this quite yet. We have it around a third health here, and then we just choose the lava cookie. And the Wailord has Destiny Bond. At this moment, I get Destiny Bond mixed up with Perish Song. And I give a look to the camera like, are you fucking kidding me? Are we losing like this? And I clap, because good fucking job, dipshit. But then my chat reminds me, hey, this is not Perish Song, just throw some balls. So I just start throwing balls. And it's at this point you can see that I'm extremely frustrated. But so I used my brain a little bit. It does help that people had said it in the chat. Here I do choose to attempt the lava cookie. And I have to think about it for a second, but then I think it through a little more. And we do go ahead and lava cookie. It destiny bonds me again. This does force out the debond, which is super helpful here. But at this point, instead of ball stalling, I realize I have a bunch of small heals I haven't used. So I just start popping them. We start with 2 potions. We just throw all the heals out. Thunder Wave, whatever. If you're going to Thunder Wave me, you're going to Thunder Wave me is kind of the thought process I had. Second potion procs, bringing me from 246 to 266, I believe. People keep telling me, don't do this. And I'm like, no, trust me, I got a plan, because I had a plan. We're stalling out debond. There's no reason not to use the small heals. The small heals are fine. It's the bigger heals that we want to save. The small heals aren't going to do anything. And if this Wailord can't do anything to me, who cares? And then I start ball stalling, at least long enough for the debond to happen. I believe it's like 4 or 5 different balls that I had to throw. It might be a little more, maybe more like 6 or 7. Holy crap, that's a lot of balls. And then we go for splash. It's at this point I look at what's going on and make a decision. We're going to heal powder here. The debonds are gone. It goes for splash. And that is all she wrote on the Wailord. The Wailord goes down to another secret power. Love to see it. Hit points were really high on the Wailord, so it's good to know that. But then Grumpig is up next. And Grumpig being a psychic type, I didn't have a whole lot to work with here. That said, it uses a reflect, outspeeding me, which was really annoying. And we use secret power. Don't love to see that, but understanding what I did, it does 66 to me using Sky Uppercut. I know I'm going to have to 2-hit it, so we hit Seismic Toss because I know its hit points suck. That's going to force a heal. At that point, I go for a Seismic Toss, which should take out about half its health due to the fact that its hit points were negative. And then we hit the second Seismic Toss, but we do have to eat one more Sky Uppercut, which is not ideal, but that's what happened. Stalling the reflect turns is good, is what chat was telling me. It's at this point Hope evolves or levels up to level 91, which is nice. I realize we have to stall out the reflect turns, but I also realize we can't just sit here and do nothing. So it's a very weird spot. I decided to consider a drill peck before I realized that my way out here is probably to pop the heal, even if I don't want to. Even, like, I'm at 162. A counter actually kills me from this range. And it's at this point, one of my friends makes a joke about not saying anything about not respecting Fortress. Funny story, I lost a Fortress once. Don't do that. In the meantime, I was trying to make a really big decision, understanding the reflect was still up, but also understanding that I need to put damage on this thing as soon as possible. I tried to decide between the energy root and the hyper potion, which in retrospect, it literally does not matter. They both do 200. No idea why the hell I was taking that long to decide, but you know, sometimes your brain be like that. Hope gains 200 hit points, and I get smacked with a crab hammer that does 50 damage. Reflect wears off, and it's at this point I see Focus Punch. We got very lucky the Focus Punch didn't proc first, because if it had tried to go Focus Punch first, we would have lost. Double Drill Peck outs the Fortress, and Drill Peck takes out the area dose pretty easily as well. And that brings us to Eradicate, which we already had trouble with. We're going to Secret Power it, and it does not do a whole lot. So understanding this, I have to burn a Cross Chop, which brings me down, I believe, to either 0 or 1 Cross Chops. We'll see. It looks like it's 1. So I go for the Drill Peck on the Poliwrath after eating a crit Water Pulse stab from a level 87 Poliwrath. I'm down to 205, but I do exit the battle with 205 hit points. And I realize that that's 3 down, 2 to go. And it's at this point people in the chat started realizing this could be real. I kind of knew that there was a chance around Giovanni, but I didn't realize it was this good. I actually, for most of this run, thought this Blissey was bad, because the speed stat, I was told, should be 2 times to 2.5 times better than your level. Meaning that the range ideally should have been 182 to about somewhere around 227. But I guess I was incorrect. Well, we'll get to that. Lance is up next, and at this point, we are going to try to take out Lance as fast as possible. We know we have the Rossberry on, So at this point, you start to see me get into the zone a little bit. And here comes a Gengar. Knowing we have to drill peck it is a little unfortunate, but its hit points aren't very strong, so it's nice and easy. Parasect up next, level 87. It's Bug Grass, so the drill peck is a 4x hit. And it takes out the Parasect with aplomb. Ninjask is next, and that's the third straight Mon that's going to get hit by drill peck for a lot of damage. And that's the third straight Mon that goes down, in fact. Blaziken, the fourth straight Mon that's weak to drill peck. Oh, wait. It's faster and has hypnosis. That's a problem. At this point, I start to get scared. I start to look at the situation and understand, okay, well, we have to really consider a few different things. And so I start to look at my situation as far as my items go. And it's funny because Blaziken was my previous personal best, but this Blaziken was looking to wall me. It was looking to stop me, and I did not like that one bit. I was asked if I had X speed. X speed is the one item that I didn't have through this run. But I had X accuracy, X attack, X defend, and X special. I chose to save those IDs. I felt like, or save those X items, I guess, because I was like, it's probably just a better idea in general to not push it. So I tell everybody to hold on for a second. We're going to look at what's going on. I've tried to reassess the situation. We only know Hypnosis on this Blaziken as well as Effect Spore. Effect Spore is potentially problematic because being poisoned would put this run in a really, really bad spot. So I have to actually sit here and just think about it for a couple minutes. People are telling me go for a hit and then a full restore. It has Effect Spore, so no Compound Eyes. It's good that it doesn't have Compound Eyes, but realizing this, there's no way it starts hitting multiple Hypnosises, right? It's a 60% accuracy move. Why would it hit multiple of those in a row? Realistically speaking, it should hit 6 out of every 10 or 3 out of every 5. So, you know, we've already been hit by one. Maybe, just maybe, it's possible that the Blaziken will not be able to Hypnosis me again. It's also at this point that I have a small debate through chat because I didn't actually know that Fire Red Leaf Green trainers only have one ability. So it's very interesting that I didn't know that, but I do now, which is, it's good in retrospect. I'm looking at my item choices, and you can tell I'm incredibly nervous here. We burn a Lava Cookie. Acid Armor boosts up the defense of the Blaziken. And it's at this point, it boosted itself another 4. But realizing that, I Seismic Toss the Blaziken because at this point, you know, its defense is ridiculous. I realize that there's no good way to get out of it. And it then proceeds to hit the second Hypnosis on me, which is great. Love to see it. So now I'm trying to make a decision as to what to do. My friends are telling me Secret Power. I'm sitting here thinking I need to Drill Peck this thing because it's fighting type and maybe a super effective hit could help. And then it Mirror moves into Seismic Toss. And at this point, I'm down to 124 hit points. I'm asleep, and I am in dire straits. I burn the full restore, realizing that is the best opportunity to hit the full restore. And it hits me with Mirror Move Seismic Toss again, which is incredibly annoying. Like, holy shit, it's annoying. I get Hypnosis, and at this point, somebody in my chat will shortly suggest I have to do something. I am about to go down to Hypnosis Seismic Toss. Drill Peck is what we think about using next to try and fix Mirror Move, understanding that Mirror Move Seismic Toss is going to continue to be a problem. I also have to really consider my healing situation here. I have a Hyper Potion. Yeah, that's about it. I have a Hyper Potion. So this is actually a really, really big trouble spot, potentially. I had to legitimately take a second and think. Understanding the situation, I think at this point I had to trust in my Blissey. Trust and hope. Trust and hope one last time. Through this run, hope has been kind of a meme. I really didn't think this Mon would get far. That's why I named it Hope. Initially, its name was Hopium because I thought this thing was just Hopium. We got a raid, so I had to stop myself, and I chose potentially to go with a Drill Peck here because I realized the healing is not going to do anything for us. So that's what I'm trying to argue now, and it's probably going to Seismic Toss me. The worst thing it can do is hit me for 81 more. That puts me down to 54. And I wake up in the clutch. Hope hits Drill Peck. And I realize the Blaziken is faster than me. I also had a max potion. I forgot about that. So at this point, I realize I'm never getting any more value out of the max potion. I start to talk it through. Someone is saying hyper potion, but I'm thinking max potion. Max potion is probably the way. Saving the max potion for the rival probably was the smarter play, but I had to get to the rival. So that was the thought process. It puts me to sleep again on the 4th hypnosis in a row. Kaizo had one more in its bag of tricks to try to stop me, didn't it? And it's at this point I realize, well, I've Drill Pecked. Mirror Move Drill Peck is what it's going to be doing to me. And I have to think again. I start to curse out the Blaziken because, seriously, what the hell? I treated that Blaziken right. And it just, kept trying to screw me. 4 for 4 on Hypnosis just should not be possible. Gotta get through Kevin Owens to avenge him is what somebody in the chat said. The Blaziken's name was Kevin Owens. It was named after a wrestler that I really like. And so I had to think here. And I forgot I had 2 awakenings for a second. So I actually burned lava cookies unnecessarily. The Drill Peck does significantly less, going from 81 to 22. And fixing the Mirror Move to Drill Peck made a lot of difference here. And so it's at this point I burn another awakening. It misses the Hypnosis. I was never worried. How could I possibly be worried? Up next comes the Crawdaunt, and I realize that. Trying to make a decision. It has high hit points, high defense. I go for the Cross Chop, realizing that maybe I hit the crit. I take it down to around a quarter hit points, and I try to clean it up with Secret Power. Of course, Lance uses a full restore, and Secret Power takes it down to about a third hit points. It's at this point I just hit Seismic Toss to try and deal with this. And I clean it up with Secret Power, which finishes off the Crawdaunt. That brings us to the last mod on this trainer, and it's Golem. My Cross Chops are out, so at this point I realize I have to make a decision. Do I pop the Max Ether here? Realistically speaking, the answer is yes. But I didn't want to, because, that Max Ether could be clutch for the next battle. Also, imagine the Golem has something that wrecks me. But it's probably correct, and at the end of the day, I do end up making a very big decision that changes the game. I choose to Max Ether up. Specifically, we go first for the Cross Chop, I believe. Yes. And then the Golem misses Zap Cannon, so I decide to clean it up and get it the fuck out of here. Realizing that if I leave it here, I'm going to be parried, and that's probably going to be the end. Cross Chop doesn't quite clean it up, and I get Sludge Bombed and poisoned. Because Kaizo just didn't have enough of fucking me over. The Golem heals itself for 30. Its hit points were massive. That literally wasn't much healing at all. And that makes me proceed to put a heal powder in. The Golem full restores, and I realize that I have decisions to make. So, we go, and I just try to make a decision here. We go Secret Power. I trusted Secret Power here, and the Para procs, and that means we can clean it up with the Cross Chop, which takes us all the way from Lorelei through Lance to our final challenge against our rival. Lance gave us an attempt, and it's at this point I know exactly where I'm at. I know that there are only 5 Pokemon standing between me and the victory. Excuse me, 6 Pokemon. It's 6 Pokemon, that's important. But even then, at this point, I'm formulating a plan. I tell chat, I've got a plan. I'm going straight in. We don't need to breathe. We just got to finish it. And I realize the exact spot that I'm in. So, it's at this point I'm going to save one time, and then I'm looking at berries one more time just to make sure there's nothing better. I'm actually more worried about burn than poison here, specifically because burn kind of ends this run specifically, which we do not want to do. That would be actually catastrophic potentially. So I make a decision to specifically keep the Rossberry on, knowing that Rossberry will help us. I look over my items one last time for good measure, and I know I have a lot that we could set up here. So it's at this point I realize there's no time like the present. Here we go to our final challenge against the rival. Can we find a way to take down the rival and win the final fight. Without further ado, here we go. We look at the door. People are trying to tell me how to play, which is understandable. I want chat's help, but I knew exactly what I had to do. I was not about to go down. The eye of the tiger was there today. The eye of the tiger was going to get me where I needed to go. And so, people are trying to talk me through stuff, and I make a few very interesting decisions coming up in this final battle once we get to it. And it's at this point I start to prepare for the rival. Whatever happens, happens, right? Let's do it. And if we lose, we go home, we try it again. And that's the mindset that I had, realistically. That was kind of the thought process that I had going through this E4. But also, I kind of knew that Hope, at this point, had a chance. Ledian was the lead. And I see Ledian, and it's at this point we start cooking. Because Ledian is not a strong Pokemon. 390 base stat total is not really anything too great. I turn on the in-game music, and I start to look around, just making a few assessments of the situation. I think about drill pecking it, and then I stop. And then I back out, I take a second, I think, and I look at the items here. And I start blasting X-Defense. Reason I blasted X-Defense was just in case it had something strong. It did hit me with Ice Punch for 34. Even then, though, like, I knew the spot I was in. I'm, like, looking at items here. I wanted to see if X Special would do a special defense as well. It does not. And it looks like X Defend right here is something that I thought about doing a second of. I do go ahead and pop the second X Defend just in case. People were like, no, pop the X attacks. And I'm like, no, I want to be safe. And I somehow get frozen, but it really doesn't matter with the little amount of damage I'm taking. Kaizo's trying to do one last little trick on me. And so at this point, I look at my options. I pop the X accuracy, realizing cross chop may be needed. And if it is, it's going to be important. The Ledian inexplicably hits me for 3 damage with frustration, and 3 more with the second frustration. We then go in, go for the X attack, and we are +2 attack at this point. It's not quite Swords Dance, but we liked it. Another 31 damage from the Ice Punch, and I'm looking at the situation. I pop the full heal and the Hyper Potion at this point. We start with the Hyper Potion, realizing that this is our last heal, but we have to heal. We have to try. It's very important. It goes for another Ice Punch. We're waiting on the freeze until the last possible moment, just to be safe. It does 30 damage, and we Ice Heal, and at this point, I know exactly where we are. At this point, I know we are right there, right where we need to be, and we somehow get frozen a second time, because Kaizo wanted to meme on me one last time, I guess. I know I've said that several times throughout this commentary, but it's true. It's maxed me for another approximately 31 damage, and at that point I don't get frozen, so I just start cooking. And this is how it goes. Drill Peck to the Ledian. The Ledian had insane hit points, and that told me the Ledian wasn't very good in the first place. And at this point, I start to take it out on Kaizo. I say, look, I'm not going to let you bully me anymore, Kaizo. I played a lot of Kaizo. I played 1,943 on-stream seeds. Secret Power wipes the Zangoose, and people seem to be very confused by the fact that I start to go on this monologue about how much Kaizo pissed me off. It took multiple mons that were capable of winning from me. It killed me to every possible thing it could. And so, apparently one of my friends said it turned them on. I was very confused. Secret Power wipes out the Weezing. It's a level 95 Sableye next. It outspeeds me, hits me with Sludge Bomb. I got lucky not to get poisoned, took 26 damage. Drill Peck wipes this Sableye all the way out. Despite it being 4 levels above me at level 95, 2 mons remain, and Beautifly comes out next. I realize the gravity of the situation, and you could see it in my face. You could see it in my eyes that I want this more than anything in the world. More than anything in the world. To be crowned Kaizo champion. And Dodrio is the last obstacle standing our way. We don't know anything about it. So we go for Secret Power, which has been all reliable throughout this entire run. Secret Power does a lot of damage to a high hit point Mon. It gets parried, it hits me with Shockwave, and at this point I speed it up, hit it with the second Secret Power, and it's finally over. It is finally over. We are officially Kaizo champions. We have officially done what very few people have been able to attain in their Kaizo careers. This moment meant so much to me, and you could see it. I just completely lose it thanking people. I didn't expect to ever get this far. I didn't expect to ever win after so many seeds. And the day before, I'd considered quitting Kaizo. Thank you all so much